Good evening,
Okay.
everyone. I'm Councilmember Pam Foley, and I thank you for giving up your evening to spend some time with us to talk about the Cambrian Park Plaza project. I know it's important to all of us. It's a really exciting opportunity to see what is going to happen on that corner. And I know you have a lot of questions and a lot of comments. We have had over 180 people sign up for this webinar. So as we get going, I'm sure more people will be logging on. First, I just want to focus on what this particular meeting is all about. There's going to be several public input meetings like this. We have had a couple of community meetings already, and in the last iteration, or the very first iteration of the development, we had lots of community meetings. But this particular meeting is focused on public spaces. And by the public spaces, I mean the parks, I mean the public art, historical carousel, any of the public areas that you will be enjoying and spending your time. We want to hear from you about that. There will be plenty of time at future meetings to talk about density, traffic, height. We've heard about all of those things, but this meeting isn't to address that. This meeting is specifically to talk about the public realm or the public spaces. So with that, we have an agenda that you can see before you. We're going to, I've already provided you with a welcome. We're going to do some introductions and give you some information on how this evening is going to run. Then we're going to have an overview from the architect, Ken Rodriguez. Then there will be plenty of time for question and answers. And we will be finished at 8 o'clock. At about 7:55, we'll stop the questions and I'll do a wrap up. If we don't get to your questions or your comments, then we will get to them at a later date. Please email Laura Miners at sanjoseca.gov. Her email is right before you, and she is the head planner who's responsible for this project at the City of San Jose. Or you can email my office at district9@sanjoseca.gov. With that, I'm going to ask, I have several staff members here, both from my staff as well as from the City of San Jose. And there are other interested parties who are participating with this. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And if they could just give us a brief comment as to what their role is in relation to this project. In no particular order, but the order I'm looking at them is Scott Hughes. Scott, what's your role?
There we go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Scott Hughes. I'm the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Foley. Tonight, I'm going to be just here to listen, take down your questions, and assist my colleague, Michael Lomeo. Thank you.
Thanks. That leads into Michael.
Hey, everybody. Michael Lomeo here. I am Councilmember Foley's lead staff member on the Cambrian Park Plaza. Chances are, if you have contacted our office in regards to this development, you've probably heard back from me. Happy to be here with everybody today. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. Next is Sylvia Doe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sylvia Doe. I'm a division manager in the planning department, and my role is supporting Laura Miners, the lead project manager on this project. And we are responsible for reviewing the applicant's proposed applications and development proposal for consistency with the city's policies and regulations. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Laura Miners, you're next.
Yeah, hello. I am the planner and project manager for this project. And similarly to Michael Lomeo, if you have emailed us, you've probably heard from me via email regarding your comments and issues. I've also sent out a couple of email blasts that you might have received. And as Sylvia has mentioned, my job is to make sure the project is in conformance with the city's requirements and codes and regulations.
Thank you, Laura. Next staff member is Kara Hawkins.
Hi everyone, my name is Kara Hawkins. I am an environmental planner for the city of San Jose. My primary role on this project is to review the EIR and make sure that the project is in compliance with CEQA.
Great, thank you. And we're not talking about the EIR tonight because it's not complete, but we'll be talking about that at another meeting. Next is Rebecca Ross.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca Ross. I'm a supervising planner with Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services. And my primary role will be to work with the community and the developer on how the project will meet its parkland obligation.
Thank you. Then the developer, Tim Frakes with Weingarten.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Tim Frakes with Weingarten Realty, owner of the shopping center of Cambrian Park Plaza. Tonight, you're going to be hearing from Sean Morley and Ken Rodriguez, who will be giving the presentation, a brief presentation to everybody. So thank you for everybody being on the call.
Thanks, Tim. Sean?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Morley, and I'm Weingarten's local representative. With the Morley brothers, we're coordinating the application process and handling community engagement like tonight. Glad to be here.
And last but not least, Ken Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ken Rodriguez. My firm, Kenneth Rodriguez and Partners Architects and Planners, has been working with Weingarten, many of you, and the city on this project, and excited to hear your input on the parks and open space.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. And I know there will be a lot of questions directed at several of you. So we will get to those after a brief presentation. But I just want to say that this is the opportunity for us to talk about how we want to make the plays, how we want to make the outdoor space as vibrant and active as possible. We want this to be the gateway to Cambrian. We want to bring our neighbors and residents in to enjoy the space, to walk around, to enjoy the fresh air. And even now we're able to get out and enjoy a little bit under COVID. But if this was here during COVID, we'd still be out in a big open space and enjoying ourselves. This is a place for neighbors to gather, for you to share time with each other and really play, watch your kids, just have a good time and enjoy the community. So we want to hear what you have to say. We want your input. I will be here to listen and take notes. We're all here to listen and take notes. I do want to thank the Friends of Cambrian Park Plaza group. They put together a survey and they have submitted it to us. Thank you for sending that along. And I'll take a look at that. We'll all take a look at that as well, along with the comments that you have today. And I take copious notes. So as you're speaking, I will be sitting here listening and making notes of your comments. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, is it Ken, who's going to give a brief presentation about the public spaces?
I think we'll go to Sean first, and then I'll jump right in.
Just a couple of quick remarks from our team before Ken gives the presentation. You know, since Weingarten first started engaging with the community about the future of the plaza 5 years ago, we heard loud and clear from residents at many, many meetings and through surveys that people wanted more than just parks and open space, but really wanted to create a unique place and opportunity to gather that really could become the heart of the Cambrian community. This has been really a guiding principle of ours since the very beginning. I think with each plan that we've submitted, it's gotten better and better, and we're really happy to be here to present this. I hope you're going to like what you see too, because it's a result of all the feedback we've heard from you and many of your neighbors. We obviously can always do more and try to find a better way to be responsive to interests in the community. We look forward to hearing that tonight. So with that, I'm going to let Ken take it away. Let's see if I can pull up and share screen here. Can everybody see that?
Very good.
Good. Okay. Ken, I'm just going to flip down one page here.
Yep.
You see that one?
I can. That's great.
Goals. You want to start here, and we'll just
let's start here. So I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly because we want to get a lot of input tonight. But as the council member and all the others have talked about, we're talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is the open space, plazas, parks, and really the community amenities. And I just really like this. A lot of these design goals are part of that. One was to create a bike-friendly and pedestrian-friendly project, incorporate Cambrian Park Plaza's history into the new development, of course, with the sign, which is a big part of that, and other things, public art. Item number 3, create spaces that include those. And then create this central promenade that really starts at the corner of Camden and Union, moves through the project, and connects up to a public park and beautiful outdoor spaces. So we also wanted to create some views for you, and that is make sure that this is pedestrian friendly, that we have a great mixture of uses, retail on the ground floor, residential above, and then some other uses on the site. And then make sure that this park public space is really, really important. So this is a view looking toward buildings 1 and 2 from our new proposed public street. You can see this public park area has, again, some ideas that we have collected from many of you over the last 2 years, city staff, you know, all of the stakeholders. And so tonight it'll be interesting to sort of dwell down on some of these points and get your input. We heard that you wanted a large central park element, which we have created. The possibility of maybe an amphitheater combination of play space, amphitheater where concerts could be held, events could be held, and take the buildings and create public amenities on the ground floor, looking out at that park and surround the park with that. Let's go to the next sketch if we could. This is a view as you were to enter from Camden and Union underneath the arcade that we've created right at the corner into the plaza. We'd have 2 beautiful dining pavilion buildings, outdoor dining, and then this would all be, so this plaza would all be surrounded by retail shops, and a variety of those could be really community oriented with outdoor seating and activating this beautiful plaza space. It's quite large. When you see the size of it, I think you'll be incredibly surprised. And this is looking back then toward that park view that you just saw on the other first rendering. So let's go to the next slide if we could. This is a view of the new public street that we're proposing that would connect Union and to Camden, at Camden and Taper and Union and Chelsea, with stoplights. And we would have single family homes that would front out onto that, a very walkable street. You can see the park on the left, which would be more of a playground, child's play area right at Wyrick. And then the larger community park to the right that I've already shown you a few sketches of. So let's go to the next slide. This is the overall master plan. You can see the community park, and Sean, if you can help me with the cursor in the center, it is a large space, well over 200 by 200 feet. I know many of you can relate to that in terms of size, but then when you drill down onto a little sort of band shelter in the middle or amphitheater in the middle, it's surrounded really by beautiful lawn, play space for a variety of different types of uses. We have outdoor seating that opens out to it on either side of it with a restaurant and a roof deck there. And then on the other edge, we have a beautiful outdoor seating area where you can actually just sit, you know, grab a cup of coffee, sit, watch your children, your family play. And I think that's one of the many unique large park elements. At the Wyrick termination, it will be closed to vehicular traffic and will only be pedestrian traffic. There is a proposed park at that location. We've heard from some of the residents that that might want to be something more like a child park, play area, to where the existing residents and to the neighbors to the south could enjoy it, as well as the new project. So a little quieter across that public street. And that's, again, one of the programs that we've shown here. We also have a larger park out on Union Avenue that will have the relocated carousel sign in it, and be a combination of park uses. Dog park, more active park, given that it's on Union Avenue, play area. And then it sort of moves back into the project to the east. And we have a couple of other open space elements, a park here, which could be a variety of different programmed uses, possibly outdoor exercise play area. And then closer to the south edge of the site, we have an open community garden that would be managed by this project, but would allow the public to come in, do different kinds of planting, and as well as the residents on site. And then the large, most important part of the project to a lot of people that we've heard is we want to create an active European plaza where people feel comfortable. There's no cars. You would sit down, eat outside, have family time and meet friends for dinner and coffee. And we've surrounded that plaza completely with retail. As I said, there's no cars. It's completely pedestrian oriented. It has a series of fountains, landscape features, and then a really nice sort of interactive fountain that's right at the terminus of this, near the public play area. And so let's go to the next slide if we could, Sean. This just gives some circulation in terms of pedestrian circulation. We've really built this park area for the pedestrian. And you'll see by the next slide, when we go to that right now, we have a huge amount of open space. For those of you that are very technical, we've broken down each and every bit of that. The blue area is public accessible park space. The purple or pink area that I talked about, plaza, public accessible, that's in the center of the project right off of Camden and Union. We have commercial private open space that occurs on the various uses that we have. And then we also have amenity space and landscape space. So when you total up all of those public spaces, that's roughly 10 acres. It's a huge amount of the 18-acre site. And some of that is roof decks, some of that are balconies, some of those in terms of private space. But I think you could really go on to the city website, download this sheet, and you'd really see a lot of this technical aspects of the breakdown of the open space. Let's go to the next slide. We saw that previously. This is the landscape plan. We can move on to the next one and come back to these if there's any question. This is just some enlargements of those specific areas. So you can see the plaza space is very pedestrian oriented, outdoor dining, outdoor retail shops that open right out onto the plaza. And I think will really be a very unique, obviously there's Santana Row that has something similar, but it's not pedestrian oriented the way this one is. Santana Row, as you know, is both pedestrian auto oriented with the Ramblas. This would be completely a pedestrian space, and I think very unique to San Jose with our climate and its location. So let's go to the next slide. This shows some of the fountain space, the plaza spaces, where they occur within in this large dining plaza, public accessible plaza. And then we've really taken care to add water into this feature to mask the noise of the autos out on Camden and Union. We are in an enclosed courtyard masked by these buildings, but still it'll be very soothing and relaxing. And then some of the fountain spaces that you see on the right-hand side of the screen with unique lighting, those are interactive child and any, I'll go in those fountains as well, adults. So let's go to the next slide if we could. This drills down a little bit more on those park spaces that I talked about. We see this as, and we heard from you, a very multi-purpose oriented park. We can do things like, well, all of the images that are shown here, all kinds of play events, community gatherings, community events. I think that was a really big design criteria that you all had talked about, and we think with this large space, like I said, it's roughly 220 by 230 feet. It's a large space. We'll allow that. Let's go to the next slide if we could. And this just draws down on more of those elements. You know, we've tried to again show the existing sign, you know, relocated onto Union. We have the proposed possible dog park at the back. Again, just these are all ideas to prime the pump for tonight and get your input. And then also other kinds of play structures and more activity areas within the park spaces. So I think with that, I will turn it back over to Sean.
And can I just ask you to address one more thing? Let me get to the next image here. Sorry. Back up to the site plan. I think you want to talk a little bit about the paseos and just how they connect. Whoop, sorry guys, there we go. The park areas. I'm just not sure you touched on that.
Oh, I didn't. Thank you so much for, I have talked about that a lot. We also heard, because of the proposal that we have an assisted living component and a hotel component, could we create some sort of respite areas that are not super active? So we've created these heavy landscape linear park elements that stretch all the way down here, as Sean is showing with the cursor, into the park, then across the park, again, separating the assisted living from the single family home, and connect all the way out to Union Avenue. So I think for those of us who like to sit in a more quiet space, it's maybe a little less sun, more tree oriented, shade oriented, these could be really beautiful linear connections and walkways, especially for the entire existing neighborhood that surround the site, as well as the new users within the site. Sean, did I forget? Did I leave anything else off?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. Well, then I will turn it back to you.
We wanted to just give a brief overview. Obviously, there's a lot more to this plan, but we wanted to stay true to tonight's theme about the public realm. And so I think, Michael, you're going to take over from here and guide us through potentially some questions. There may be some for the city. We're happy to offer any clarifications, but we really want to hear everybody's reactions and ideas as well. And just, I would say, you know, as an example, and I think Ken mentioned, the first submittal of this plan actually had the playground, the child's play area, located now back here in this area along Union. And we got some real positive feedback from the community about those functions, but a strong suggestion from a couple of people who were really focused on this, that we should flip them, because it didn't make sense to necessarily have so many children's activities so close to a major road. And that made a lot of sense to us. So in our last submittal, we updated and flipped it. So, you know, every plan can get better. We look forward to hearing your good ideas. And with that, Michael, I'd say take it away.
Thanks, Sean.
Do you want to take over control now?
Yes, I believe I just did, if everybody can see that. So
Michael, do you want me to go over the helpful information before you go into the Q&A?
That's okay. I think I got it.
Okay.
Okay with you. So just a heads up, everybody, this meeting will be recorded. We'll be sure to post the meeting on YouTube and Facebook as well after the meeting, and we'll make sure that captions are a part of the video, just so that folks that are hard of hearing can actually listen in their own way. If you'd like to comment, please wait until the question and answers portion of this meeting and then use the raise hand feature in Zoom or press *9 if joining by phone. That'll be coming up in just a few moments. We will call out your name or last 4 digits of your phone number and prompt you to speak. If you would rather type your questions, please use the Q&A feature. We will be monitoring the questions and reading them aloud. Each question will be directed to the appropriate panelist to answer live during the meeting. You'll also see these directions written down on the next slide or so. And with that, we're going to begin with Q&A in the messaging format. Scott Hughes will be helping me with that, and I'll be helping with the folks that want to provide verbal comments or questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Michael. All right, first question, I believe it's directed towards Rebecca Ross from Catherine Hedges. Catherine is interested in whether or not there would be a possibility for a universal access playground, similar to like the Rotary Playground or Magical Bridge.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Scott. I think I need to start out, I need to back up a little bit and provide a little bit of a higher level point of view before I dive into the questions. So Parks and Rec has been involved with working with the developer and the community and other city staff to get to the point where we are today. We're very supportive of the plan as proposed, as shown. Our focus has been on the location, size, and access to the public recreational spaces. We're a long ways away from having any negotiations with the developer about how they're going to meet a parkland obligation. So the parkland obligation here is because they're proposing new residential units, and their obligation is to provide 3.21 acres of land, and that can be converted into a park impact in lieu fee of $4,900,800. How we're going to meet that obligation is very much in the early stages of negotiation. What the city would like to see as part of that negotiation is land dedication and the development of a turnkey park. What that means is the developer would offer land to the city. They would help and coordinate with us and the community to design and build the improvements for the public park. That's a multi-step process that happens generally after a development permit is received. And since we're in the zoning phase, we're not quite there yet, but we're entering into that point where we're going to start having those negotiations with the developer. So why is that related to this question? Is because we don't have a design for a park yet. And we don't have an agreement yet that says that this is going to be a public park or a privately owned park that's publicly accessible. There are a lot of variables that need to be determined before we, the city, could say that with certainty. So the question from Catherine is, where are the new universal access playgrounds located in the city? We do have one at the Rotary Playgarden off Coleman Avenue. And we have a second one coming in Emma Prush Farm Park. And it's going to have a design as a chicken. And I don't know the timeline for the delivery on that, but if you email me, I can follow it up for you. Whether or not we could repeat that here is to be determined.
All right, and just sort of a follow-up question along those same lines. Do we know sort of the dimensions or the size of the park? Maybe possibly how many families or how many children would be comfortably able to participate or play in this park?
Thank you, Scott. We don't know. I see that the current, if we could put the slide back up that shows the acreage, I do see that the proposed children's playground is 0.2 acres, which is relatively small, but it is adjacent to the larger open space area. I might refer that question back to Ken Rodriguez. He may have more expertise in the ratio of space to a children's playground and how this fits into that piece.
Yeah, let's go back up to that slide, and then if you can enlarge it, Sean, it is actually right at the start of the presentation would be the best way to go here.
Is that number one?
Down, no, it's down, keep going, thank you, almost there. It's that colored landscape, I think it's right there, 8, let's try 8.
There you go.
There it is. So if you could look to, there we go, enlarging that. Thank you. And maybe possibly just move to, we're looking right down at Warwick there. If you could, I would enlarge that area. Rebecca is right. It's a smaller park, but only bisected by this new residential public street. And so we see it as this pedestrian connection, 0.2 acres or roughly a little over 7,300 feet. It's only one of many, many other locations that we have. They're not all together. We like spreading them out in the development. That was a big idea that many members of stakeholders had initially when we started the planning. So right now we're calling for this as more of a child playground, as I mentioned, that abuts the neighborhood. So both neighborhoods, the existing neighborhood and this new proposed project, can both use it.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I have a question from Connie Beck. She is concerned about sort of what would it be? Non-native plants and possibly incorporating more Northern California trees and vegetation and so forth and foliage around the development. Are there any plans for adding any native plants?
Yes. If you'll take a look at the submittal that we made to the city recently, you will see a full plant palette, and they are native plant material. That's been the theme of the design of this. We also have a drought tolerant plant material. We've looked at meeting all of the very difficult water requirements in terms of both the city and the state. And then on top of that, we do have the lawn area, which right now that was a proposal because the majority of the stakeholders we've heard from in the past wanted a lawn area to where games could be played, frisbees could be thrown, those kinds of things that is in the center. So I would encourage you to take a look at those drawings. And if you have questions, you feel free to email us, and we'll certainly get our landscape architect, the Gazzardo Partnership, to answer those for you.
And then just to add very quickly, for the public park, since it hasn't been designed yet, we don't have a planting plan for any of the, if it's going to be city owned, we don't have a planting plan for that. That would happen during a separate design, public meetings to help come up with a design, and then last we would do the planting plans.
All right, thank you. Another question. I have a couple of folks that have sort of danced around this one a little bit. I know you touched on it a little bit, but what were some of the reasons or what was the thought process behind locating the public park towards the rear of the development versus maybe on a more popular corner like the Camden and Union? And to follow up on that, with it being back towards the neighborhood, how would we entice or get folks walking along the Camden Union corner back to that park?
Yeah, great. All good comments. We did spend a lot of time working on this with all the various stakeholders. We did have some sketches that had the park at the corner. We placed the building and the plaza there as a gateway, and we really turned this entire space all the way from Camden and Union to Wyrick into a walkable pedestrian feature. Yeah, I consider it all to be a park. I know that sometimes is hard for people to get their arms around. I don't think a park is just a lawn, grassy area. I think it's a combination of different areas that allow the public to do different things. So therefore, the plaza, the large central plaza that I talked about, which is the dining sort of public plaza, is connected to the park space, which is connected to the child's play area that's connected to Wyrick. And the only place that it's bisected is the small residential public street. We've worked very closely with Public Works to design a street there that will move traffic very slowly through it and allow people to easily cross this street. And then we have the connection at Union and Camden, which we call Main Street, to get to all the underground parking. The big idea of this project, for many of you who are seeing it for the first time, is the majority of the parking on this site is all underground. That was just a big, once that happened, once the developer said we can do that when the stakeholders asked for it, that really freed up all this space to really become, I would challenge anyone to say an 18-acre site with 10 acres of open space. I've just never done one in my career. And many of you know I do work on a lot of these larger mixed-use urban projects. So hopefully that with the walkways that we've created off Union and Camden, bringing you to the center of the project, it's going to be an incredible walking experience to get to that, the heart of the project.
Rebecca, did you have anything else to add there?
No, not on that one.
All right, great, thank you. All right, we have another one here from Bob Burris. And he would like to know, since we're still sort of in the development phase here, a little bit in the design phase, would the density on housing or commercial, if things were to change, would it impact how much open space is available?
It does, depending upon how we would, how the uses would look if they were to upsize or downsize. I think from our standpoint, we've worked on this for so long and taken lots of public testimony and lots of city staff testimony and design input. I think that we're way over the requirement for the project as it sits today on the open space. So there's the really, really good news. So it may change if the project changes, but I think the applicant, the developer, is really happy with this plan that has been sort of jointly proposed by members of the community, the city, and the developer himself.
Hey, Ken, I might just add to, this is a signature project, which is supposed to be, as the council member has said, extraordinary. I'd like to think that we hit that mark, with some very specific guidelines from the city about how to achieve that. But one of the key things is creating public spaces. And, while we're looking at the park, obviously the plaza signs up, but we have really worked hard to meet and exceed all of the requirements for a signature project here, and connecting all of this in a very unique way, as well as creating these individual parts is part of that effort.
And I would also encourage you to drill down on the numbers of those that I showed you, that slide 8, the one sheet, for those of you who like to get into the numbers like myself. But let me give you an overview. Many of you are familiar with another project that I worked on at Main Street at Cupertino. It's actually a very good comparison because it's roughly an 18-acre site as well. This particular proposal that we have before you and that we've been working on for the past 2 years has 4 times the amount of open space as Cupertino Main Street. So if you've walked through that and you know that project, or go walk through it and take a look at it, and then try to imagine what an increase of that much more open space would be. It's really amazing, this 10.2 acres, when you add up all these numbers and look at them.
Now, from that large number there, the 10.2 acres, how much of that is our private yards or parking strips?
Yeah, we've broken that out. You can see the yellow; those are the single-family homes. That's 2.7 acres of their own private open space. Of course, the front yards are publicly visible. The landscape hardscape open space is 2.5 acres. And the residential amenity space, which is common open space, is another 0.2 that we show in this brown. The commercial private open space is 0.8 in that lighter teal color, and then the accessible plaza is 1.7, and the public park area is 2.3. So I think to answer your question specifically, the private open space of 0.8 acres plus the 2.7 acres of that number is private open space. The rest is all public.
Great. No, thank you for breaking that down. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's why I included this slide, just so everybody could drill down on the numbers for those of us who like to get into that level.
It's probably worth pointing out too, because sometimes people lose track of the scale of the overall site plan, but the plaza itself at 1.7 acres is literally almost a couple of football fields. It is a very large European plaza that will in and of itself, with restaurants and commercial uses, become what we hope will be really, along with the center community park, the heart of Cambrian. And so, but they are very large areas, unlike anything that we have seen really in any other place in San Jose, or I think even greater Silicon Valley. And of course, because we're able to push all the parking underground and create a design focused on people, not cars.
All right, great. Michael, one more, and then we'll go to any questions you may have.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, thank you. All right, this is actually an interesting one from Catherine Hedges again. Will there be public Wi-Fi or free public Wi-Fi in the public plaza or amphitheater area to encourage residents to hang out while working or studying?
Really good question. We, focus our design in layers, and each layer gets more and more granular. That is a very good suggestion, and one we will take under advisement as we get into the next layer of planning, because obviously it's something that would make the space a lot more usable. And there are a lot of places where that is happening already in San Jose. There are some very interesting ways to deliver free Wi-Fi that we are seeing in other communities. And it's definitely something worth exploring here into the next stages. So thanks for mentioning it.
Thanks, Sean. And just a friendly reminder to everybody, if you want to give a verbal comment, all you have to do is raise your hand. Our first verbal comment will be from caller 5140. When I allow you to speak, I will start the 1-minute timer. 5140, can you hear me?
Good evening. Yeah, the plans for me of this new center are really not that exciting. Having a hotel, if that's still in the plans, is no good. Because you look over at Almaden Ranch, that whole thing was a disaster. While I like some of the stores there, the parking is inadequate. There's a hotel that looks like it's going to probably be a precinct for a police department or a homeless shelter someday. Once again, they've got these little open areas that are tiny, and it has fake grass. I hope there's going to be no fake grass at this place. It's bad enough you're going to have dogs there, like they do at the Rose Garden, crapping everywhere. Just what I want to do is step in something like that on fake grass. I hope there's no fake grass. And I just don't think having an old folks home, a diabetes center, is that an uplifting type place? A 3-story crappy hotel? I don't know.
Thank you. Does anybody want to respond to the comment whether or not there will be fake grass?
Ken?
No fake grass.
No fake grass. Thanks.
All right, Michael, do you have another one, or would you like me to keep going?
I actually do have a couple. I have a few more now.
All right.
Folks are raising their hands. Our next caller is Gavin L. Gavin, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then I'm going to start the timer. Gavin, can you hear me?
Thank you very much for taking my comment. My name is Gavin Laurie. I'm with Catalyze SV. We work with communities to create sustainable, equitable, and vibrant places in Silicon Valley. We reviewed this project actually last week, and our members really liked the vibrancy of it, scored it 5 out of 5 on vibrancy. So we just wanted to kind of give some of the comments that our members put forward. We really like that the parking's underground and that this opens up the whole area to have that open space and plazas. So I think that's great. the kind of different areas in the park, that's not just one monolithic park, and that there's a bunch of different uses, is something that we really appreciate and think will be an asset for the community. And with all the commercial space and the outdoor cafes, it definitely feels like it'll be a city center. And then finally, all the uses, the apartments with assisted living, all that together really brings it together. One thing we do want to see is maybe the public space extended for farmers markets.
Gavin, I do apologize. Thanks.
Maybe if I could just add there, Gavin, thank you. I think what he was saying at the end was the space that we've created at Main Street, trying to keep the farmers market and keep that as really a community element. The street itself could be closed down. That's one of the unique elements of this design, to allow for that to happen on the weekend. And I think that we agree with some of the Catalyze SV comments that they made last week. They were very, very thoughtful, and we definitely will include those in the new project.
Great. And the next caller we have is Catherine Hedges. Catherine, I'm allowing you to talk right now. Let me know when you hear me and I will start the clock.
Good evening. Thanks very much for having this meeting. And I was also at the Catalyze SV meeting where we scored it, and I am being kind of nitpicky about things. As the other speaker from our group said, we like the project. There's so much we like about the project. We just want to make sure that, everything gets implemented really well, because this is a signature project, et cetera, et cetera. And I am glad that you're including people of all ages with retirement housing and the dialysis center or whatever it is. My jaw just fell to the floor when that other caller said he thought it'd be depressing or whatever to have people like that. I was like, what the heck? This is ageism and ableism, and we have no place for that in San Jose. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Catherine. Next, we have Cindy L. Cindy, I'm going to restart the clock, and then I will allow you to speak. Oh, it looks like Cindy has disappeared, actually. Scott, we don't have anybody else. Oh, there's Cindy. Let me try that again. Cindy, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Cindy. I'm going to start the clock.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, hi, this is Bob. We live on Wyrick, and we're concerned about the parking situation. So the first question is, what's being done to either prevent or limit the overflow parking from the residents onto the Wyrick area, street as well as Burkhaw? And for the residents themselves, what's allocated for parking for each of the parking units? So I had heard there was only one car per housing unit, but I just wanted to find out from you guys what that is. So those two questions, please.
Yeah, I think I can give you a quick answer to really, I would go onto the website, the city's website, and take a look at our very complete parking plans. We have a distribution of parking and how that all works. We do meet all of the city code. That's very important. We don't want to see parking spill over in the neighborhood. We've heard that for as long as our firm has been on this, working on it. And I do think that part of your neighborhood group, working with both the developer and the city to take a look at these, and it's probably going to be done at a different meeting than this parks meeting, but definitely would like to drill down on the details of what you're talking about, what we have, and then sort of come back and take a look at, can there be anything better to be added to it? So I'm not trying to be evasive to your question. I'm trying to focus it on today's topic. And I do appreciate it. And I just want you to know that it has been thought of, and you'll be able to see all of those parking ratios. There's not one per unit. I know things get around, but take a look at the drawings yourself, and I think you'll see that there's really good parking that we're proposing.
Cindy and Bob, it's Sean Morley. I'm happy to walk you through that separately. You know, if you want to contact me through Michael Lomeo, I'm happy to get together with you and walk you through the plan specifically, just so you can understand how the parking works. Okay.
That would be great. Thank you very much. And I'll just say it is an improved plan from the first plan.
Thank you.
We still have that.
Thanks, Cindy. And just a reminder, I appreciate all the questions we're getting around affordable housing and tenant mix and things like that. We will have an opportunity to speak about those in coming months. So I am on the side making notes of those questions or comments as well, but we were not going to get to those today. We're just going to be answering and discussing the public spaces and the open spaces. So the public park, the farmer's market. I've heard a couple of comments about that. So anything about that. And also we have a lot of questions that we're going to get to. So if you raised your hand and asked a question already, if you could lower your hand and we will go through the list. If we have time later to get back to you, we will come back to you and have you ask another question. But we want to give everybody a chance. We want to get to everybody's questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Council Member. Next up, we have Stephen Adelman. Stephen, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then once I hear you, I will start the timer.
Yep. Are you there?
Hi, Stephen. We can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you all for being available to us Cambrian Park residents. I myself am fourth generation here, and I have 3 more generations behind me. So we've been in this area a long time, and I agree something needs to be done. I've been banking there, shopping there, supporting all the businesses. And, you know, I saw it happen to Town and Country, what happened there, et cetera. But let's go back to our beloved Cambrian Park Plaza carousel. As I was in construction, just retired 3 days ago, thank you, for 37 years in this area. Number one, I'm worried about the line of sight for the carousel. I didn't see any drawings that showed the actual view that will, since it's being relocated with a 6-story building on one side and a 3-story on.
Thank you, Stephen. I believe he wanted to touch base on the carousel. Does the owner want to touch on that aspect of the project?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of community input on this, Stephen, and we have placed it on Union, right behind the city public walkway. So it is really well exposed out on Union, more than it is today. We do have it as a part of the park that I mentioned to you before. And the owner will be restoring it to its original historic, or to its original condition. That is a part of this proposal. There you can see the sketch of that. And so hopefully, there you go. The black and white is really what I think members of the community have really been looking for. And so I do think that it'll be well exposed. More obviously, it's sitting in the middle of a parking lot now, which makes it very well exposed. But since we don't have parking and we don't have these big fields of asphalt, it'll be sitting in landscaping now in the park area. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Next up, we have Susan Butler Graham and then Susan Landry. And then after those 2 speakers, we're going to throw it back to the Q&A text portion with Scott Hughes.
Hi,
Hi, Susan.
Butler Graham. I'm a District 9 resident and a member of Mothers Out Front. Thanks so much for having this meeting. This plan looks beautiful, very walkable, and so much open public space, big spaces and small spaces. I especially like the idea that there's a lot of multifamily housing, so we reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help the climate. I can imagine in a few decades when I'm older living there and walking around and feeling very comfortable and having nice little quiet spaces. I like that idea. I was wondering about the community garden and who will have access to the community garden.
Sean, you may want to take that one,
Sure.
or
So-
I can try.
Yeah, no, I mean, our plan is to have it available to the entire public. We don't have a management plan yet for how that would happen, but these are community places and spaces. And so our goal is to make all of the spaces that are on the plan for the public truly available to the public. So we invite everybody to give us examples of what has worked well or maybe hasn't from a community management standpoint. Our expectation is that ultimately, like all of the other open spaces, the development, the neighborhood, the community will ultimately fund the maintenance of the parks to ensure that they're maintained in the condition that they're originally designed. And I think, reduces costs for the city and the like, but setting that aside for the community garden, our plan is to have it publicly available to anyone who wants to make use of it. How that happens and how it's managed, TBD.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Next, we have Susan Landry. I'm going to allow you to talk and then start the timer. Susan?
I'm unmuting. Thank you. I want to thank the Pam Foley and all the staff and the consultants. A lot of progress has been made since a couple years ago when we had the plan. My one question, and I don't know the answer for sure, but it seems like the carousel is tucked in between buildings and won't be that visible. And I was wondering if it could be integrated into the large park that's in the center so that more people can enjoy it and get up a little more close to it. Let's see, the other comment is the large park and the courtyards by the buildings are separated by a street. And I'm wondering how that's going to work with traffic separating those two areas. Thank you again.
Thanks. Ken or Sean, would you like to talk about that?
Susan, I think we chatted a little bit about the location of the carousel, maybe while you were getting on the phone line for a prior question. So just in the interest of time, we probably won't readdress that. With respect to the street that you mentioned, while the site is designed for people and not cars, most assuredly, we do need some basic access into the site. I think one of the most important things to think about is that it's primarily, while it is a street and it is a very walkable street where cars will be foreign and people will, I think rule the day, and that was how we designed it. All of the entrances to the underground parking are closer to the major streets. And so the vast majority of traffic that is coming through the site will never actually get to the point of connection between the plaza and the park. And we designed it very intentionally. So when Ken talks about where the farmer's market can go, those areas can actually be totally closed. Now, would it be possible to close them permanently? Unfortunately, no. And the reason for that is just real basic safety. We have to be able to get around the site with fire vehicles and the like. And so we have planned this to really minimize streets, but we do need some ability to maneuver around the site. And I think Ken's design, especially where he's located the parking entrances, has really done that quite artfully in a way that is going to benefit connectivity and residents' walking experiences. Ken, did I do an okay job there?
Great job. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, you're training me well.
No, I didn't do it.
Thanks. Scott.
All right, are we ready to go with some more Q&A? Okay, we'll touch on something here that we haven't spoken about yet. Christine Kovaris, could you please explain your vision for the amphitheater? Will there be a permanent stage? Will the area be accessible when there are no performances? How do you have rolling hills for people to sit on to view performances, or would it sort of be one of those bring your own chair? type of environments? And then as well, around that sort of same area, how about shade? Are we relying only on the trees, or do we have shade canopies or structures that are going to be constructed there?
Yeah, so that's great. That's I like the way this question drills down on the actual park element. We haven't finalized any of the design. We've really, as I said, primed the pump here, and hopefully work with the community to design this. We do show some trees for a little bit of shade. We show some shade structures over what could be a permanent stage area, and then a series of mounding to where it would be easy to sit and watch a performance, yet still, be able to run across a little bit of mound if there wasn't a performance going on. So I think we've kind of shown and primed the pump with a lot of different options here with these photographs that you see and where the arrows are pointed. And again, we're really looking for input. There's many ways to create an amphitheater and surrounding seating area for it, but we also need to make this space very flexible so that it really works for the neighborhood and the community and can do multiple, sort of multiple duty. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Can I jump in?
Please.
Thank you. So what we have here is a conceptual plan for a public park. And we know that either way, if it's owned by the developer or owned by the city, that it's going to be a public park. If it's a public park that's owned by the city, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we're going to go through a separate master planning process, which includes envisioning, sites and constraints, a budget. There's a lot of steps for that. So while this is a great concept, I would like to encourage the community to think about this more as the size, location, configuration, location of where these recreational public spaces will be. But please keep in mind that the city has just started the negotiations barely with the developer. And so we don't know what the final design will be yet. And so what you see here today, the amphitheater with the mounds, could happen or it could change, but all of that would be considered during a separate public meeting process where you will all be invited and you can all be informed. So again, it's nothing is decided. It could go this way or it could change. So I just want to make sure that everybody has a good understanding of that.
Okay, we have a question here from Peter Clark. We've touched on the playground near the Burkaw-Wyrick area as being sort of a smaller space for younger children. Are there any facilities planned to make this area attractive for the older kids or the teenagers, such as maybe some sort of sport courts or skating area, like a skateboard area or scooter area?
Yeah, those are all good comments. I think that's a kind of input we were looking for tonight. So I think we want to make this multi-generational. And so I think from our standpoint, we would be open to many of those suggestions.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I could add from the city's perspective, just depending on how discussions go, we share those same values, and we could vet it out through a public process.
And our goal is not to be duplicative of other park resources that are in the immediate area, to create an additional range of opportunities for the community. Our goal is to create a cohesive open space and park environment. And so, there's a lot of space for a lot of ideas here. We didn't pick these out of a hat. They were part of, the initial survey we did where we had, 1,300 participants, 900 comments. These were the ones that rose to the top. I'm sure, like Ken said, that, with refinement, everything can be better. But our goal is to, we may not be able to be everything to everyone, but boy, I think we can get pretty close given the amazing amount of acreage and opportunities we have here.
Great. And great segue into the next question. A little bit about the dog park. You'd spoken about other potential or close city resources or city resources nearby, with the Butcher Dog Park being fairly close in proximity to the Cambrian Park Plaza. Have you given any thought as to other alternatives for the dog park or other uses for that area?
Yeah, we're completely open to suggestions. I think a lot of members of the community have, over the many meetings we've had, have expressed their desire for a small dog park. But again, we're open to whatever those are. As Rebecca said, we would definitely sit down and plan this together. These park spaces.
Okay. Let's see. Parking, with the underground parking, you've received a lot of positive comments on the underground parking and how you've been able to now open up the development because of the parking down below. There is some concern, though, about the parking potentially being taken up by folks maybe using it overnight, potentially maybe parking underneath and using that. Are there any strategies that you're looking at using to try and keep the parking available for those that live there, and then those that want to shop or visit in the area?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I know we'll drill down on this on future meetings, but I can just briefly say to you that this project will have a full set of CC&Rs that do dictate how the parking is used, who can use it when. That's an important piece. It will also be managed by the developer, Weingarten, and people who live there will be able to park there. People who cannot park there overnight. So I think in those CC&Rs, that is something that we're required to submit with this project and are forthcoming.
All right, great. And then going back to the amphitheater really quick. Yeah, I know we're talking conceptual here. Have there been any discussions about what type of performance in terms of the noise or the decibel levels that may be brought into the theater at all?
Well, again, that would also be controlled by both city ordinance as well as the CC&Rs in this project. This isn't a site that would hold a large concert. It would not be for that. What we heard loud and clear from members of the community is, wouldn't it be great to have, solo artists, small events for the neighborhood on a weekend, evening or early evening or daytime. There are many parks that do this. Downtown Los Gatos has a program that they do. The Cupertino Main Street project I talked about has entertainment occasionally. It's well controlled, and Santana Row does the same. So remember that there are residents living on this site too, and they'll be closer than the surrounding neighborhoods. And so that all has to be taken into consideration and certainly a part of the CC&Rs. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, and I have several questions here with folks interested in knowing if there are going to be public restrooms available, not only just in the retail commercial area, but also near the small children's play area or the amphitheater.
Right now, the drawings do show public restrooms within the large plaza. We think that's appropriate to keep eyes on those so that they're safe and that they're well maintained. Right now, that's our proposal.
Okay. I'm getting through most of my questions here. Michael, do you have any folks with their hands raised?
I only have Susan Landry, and I'm not sure if she means to keep her hand up or not, but if anybody else wants to raise their hand, they're more than welcome to. And it looks like we are getting a couple people. Scott, would you like me to go over to the verbal comments?
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. I see Lillian Koenig. I'm going to allow you to talk, and once I can hear you, I'm going to start the timer.
Yes, I just like to know how people get into the development site if you are buying into it. Are you looking at, because we live in a world today that is very, very racially motivated and being equal and having opportunity for everybody. You know, do you select people based on income? Do you select people based on credit score? Do you select people based on racial ethnicity? How will you make this fair in today's climate? Thank you.
Well, it's a little off topic for open space, but I would just say, to your point, this is a community designed for everyone, and there will be an equal opportunity in all of the housing, options that are provided for anyone and everyone who might want to live here.
Thanks, Sean. Next,
we hope the list is long.
Next, we have Christine K. I'm going to restart the timer. And now I'm allowing you to talk. Christine, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Great. I'm going to
So
start.
Thank you. I'm a resident in Burkaw, and I back onto the plaza. I have two comments. So one of the items regarding the street that's going through at the back is whether it can be turned into a cul-de-sac, and maybe if that's not permissible for fire use, maybe there can be posts placed there, or some type of barrier for cars, but they can be removed for like fire needs. So that's just one comment maybe that could be looked into. And I think by closing that space off, you can create kind of more safe zone for kids and families that are accessing from the neighborhood and going into the plaza. I think there's a lot of people concerned that that will become a freeway. And then I had one other question. So at Santana Row, some of the community features were removed, like the water feature. So will there be any protection for features that are placed in the CC&Rs so they can't be removed?
Sean or Ken?
Yeah, I would say just to your last question, it's not only CC&Rs. Remember, this is a very detailed planning process with the city. First of all, once we build it, most of these would be, I think, practically impossible to remove. But the CC&Rs will require us to maintain the project as designed, and the city planning requirements will include an obligation, if ever there was a need, say 30 years ago in the future, to revisit something. We require a separate planning process, fully involved community at that point in time. But we're building this to last, and we very much want it to be a community that can stand the test of time and be here for the community.
Thanks, Sean. Hey, Scott, we only have repeat callers now. Are there any Q&A questions left?
I have a few, not too many. Most folks are pretty positive about the design that has been brought up today. I do have one that, again, talking about the smaller kids playground, hoping that there may be an opportunity to have that playground integrated with the larger open space or larger park, so that the families may not have to walk across a street away from the actual development or sort of development center, I guess you could say, or the open space center. Is this something that the developer would consider?
Yeah, as I think we've said, the point of this tonight is to get feedback about a range of ideas. Our goal is, though, to make sure that whatever plan we land on, into the next phases, that there's community consensus about it. I think it is fair to say that, for a lot of the open spaces, as well as other elements of the plan, we've had a wide range of views. We've done our best to try to, over time, respond positively to what we've heard as sort of the sweet spot consensus on a lot of these. There's clearly room in the center park to create that sort of opportunity if that's the community's will.
Great, thank you. And with all of this open space, are there is there going to be anything set aside to protect the safety of those walking compared to those who may be biking or blading or skating? Are there any kind of safety measures? You have all this open space. How do we keep everybody, all these multimodal sort of groups safe and separated from each other?
Well, I think that we worked really hard on the pedestrian plan, and as you Ken showed at the beginning, there are so many places to enter and the site to experience it. The one thing we've really tried to do is create, with the two very large areas in the plaza and the main park, places where we essentially aren't going to have, for lack of a better term, multimodal conflicts, certainly not between cars and people. We are in an emerging area where we're seeing a lot of different ways for people to get around in that last mile, if you will. I imagine that from a parks planning standpoint, that's becoming an increasingly a big question for Rebecca and her colleagues. I'm pretty confident we can solve it here, so we don't have a way where we're having conflicts that raise safety issues.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, that's true. So we do keep public safety in mind when we go through the master planning process. So I can't comment on what those features will be right now because we don't have an agreed upon master plan, but we have a good concept here to start that conversation.
And our goal too, just for everybody's edification, we want to deliver a set of plans for the entire site, but especially for the open space, so that everybody in the community knows when this project moves forward to public review and public hearings and ultimately a council decision, that everybody knows exactly what they're getting. And there's no confusion about what is being proposed and what's in and what's out. And so everybody can make a decision for themselves whether it meets their needs. Obviously, we've worked really hard to do that. We hope we can make it better. But our goal is to get down to very specific plan in a time frame that happens, so that this isn't a confusing process for the public as time goes on. And so hopefully everybody will be up for that in the next number of months. We have a real opportunity here, and we want to get it right.
Thanks, Sean. I see Michael Y with his hand raised, so I am going to allow you to talk, Michael. And once I hear you, I will start the timer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael. I just wanted to really thank the developer and the city for a beautiful project. And I really like that the green spaces and the plaza and the Central Park are separated. I think that's wonderful. I think that will give it a European feel. Any of us have been to Italy or France, and you walk through a small village, you have the green spaces separated. I think that creates a lot of vibrancy and flow. And I really would like to see that kept. I know one of the advocacy groups has stated they want things consolidated together. I think that would be a big mistake. I think it would really detract from the project. So I hope that you will, as you go along, stay true to keeping the spaces separate, because I really think it will create a vibrancy and a flow, and people walking, and small children, young adults, older people. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Does anybody want to comment on that?
Thank you, Michael. This is Ken again. Appreciate your comment. I totally agree with it, and I think it allows a lot of different spaces for different activities. I think it's hard to make one large space work for everyone, but it's one of the reasons I think Europe is so successful, that they have these pieces that are connected, and so you can easily walk to them. There's very little conflict with the auto. And I do think that's part of the success. So I really appreciate you pointing that out, and thank you for your expertise.
Thanks, Ken. And next we have Carlin B. Carlin, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then I'm going to restart the timer. Carlin, are you there?
Got it. Okay, yeah. Have you given any thought to actually closing that street between the little park at the entrance and the big park with, you know, pylons or something, so that that isn't actually a through street except for emergency vehicles? It seems like that would be a nice way to connect that whole area without interference of cars normally. Thank you.
Thanks, Carlin.
Yeah, just to answer that specifically, we've had some comments very similar tonight, as well as a few from other members of the community. We've retained a traffic consultant for this project, as many of you know, and we've asked them to really look at that. And so when we get back to, when we get to that topic on a future meeting, we hope to have we will have an answer for you and allow them, the professionals, to kind of go through that with you and give you their thoughts. So thank you again for that comment.
And next we have Michael S. Michael, I'm going to allow you to talk. Hey, Michael. Michael, I believe you're still on mute.
There we go. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sound like a telephone commercial. So I'm looking at the drawing with the open space listed, and I see that the residential private open space is 2.7 acres. These are front yards and backyards of the houses. That's the largest component in the 10.2 acres. Followed by the landscaping around the buildings of 2.5 acres. But the public accessible park is 2.3 acres, which is nice, but I believe that Rebecca Ross said that the requirement for this site was 3.2 acres. And so I'm kind of wondering, where are you going to get, you know, another 0.9, almost another acre for the public park?
Thank you. That's a great question. I can respond to that first. So as I mentioned, yes, the project does, as under the current project description, which could change, the current obligation is 3.21 acres, which can translate into an equivalent park impact fee of $4,900,800. That's a gross amount, that's a gross land amount, and that's a gross estimated fee amount. Nothing has been finalized until the project has actually been approved. When the city seeks a solution to fulfill the parkland obligation, it isn't always through the full land dedication requirement. So for this particular project, we're not looking for a full land dedication of 3.2 acres. What we would like to do is balance the resources, is to receive some land to meet part of that obligation, and then use some of the in lieu fees to help build those improvements. And so the developer, in a sense, would be fulfilling their obligation by dedicating land and building the improvements, and then they turn it over to the city, which is why it's called a turnkey. They turned it over to the city, and then the city now has a fully designed and constructed public park. We haven't hashed out anything with the developer yet. I know I probably sounding like a broken record, but I just want to be very transparent. So we don't know how this is going to work out yet. We're just starting those conversations now. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, the city would like land dedication and public improvements as the means to fulfill the parkland obligation, but we need to meet with the developer and start having those discussions.
And just on behalf of the developer, Weingarten, I do want to say a couple of things. One, yes, we hear loud and clear I think Rebecca gave a very good outline for the process. Our goal is, I think, probably to maintain ownership so that we can maintain the parks and the management in a much better way. That's obviously a subject of much more discussion, but really most important to your point, We have a 1.7 acre European Plaza. And that is as much a community amenity, setting aside whether it meets the parkland requirements or not for credit or anything like that, to not be hyper technical. But just as we look at the opportunity, that was very clear from a community amenity standpoint that it was something that the community wanted to see. I don't think any of us really envisioned a few years ago that it would ever be something this magnificent. But we do see that and the connection, which is, well over 4 acres of opportunity in really the center and the heart of the signature project mixed use development. And so we're looking forward to delivering that. It's really very unique. I don't think we've ever really seen anything like it in Silicon Valley.
Thanks, Sean. Folks, I do want to do a time check. It is 7:57. Councilmember, would this be an appropriate time to give your closing remarks?
Yes, it is. I think so. I want to thank all of the participants who are here asking their great questions. I wrote down a lot of the questions that weren't asked as they relate to other topics. And also I was listening to all of the comments that you had to make. There were a couple of observations I made, and one was there are a few people who raised the issue about accessible playgrounds. We've been talking about accessibility at the city, so that's really on point with the city and particularly the needs of all of our community. Also, several people asked about the design and the use and function of the amphitheater. The carousel, loud and clear that the carousel is beloved. As the developer has said before, he will preserve that. But the questions that came up here were line of sight. How is it going to be showcased and honored, as it is something that is so beloved in the Cambrian Park Plaza? Additional comments, and these are just the ones that received more than one person talking about them, was the dog park, do we really need it? Types of plants, water use, water resistant, native plants, no palm trees, please. That was my comment, actually. The farmers market, also several people commented about that. So I want to thank you for all your comments. Are really appreciative and will help as we go forward to make this the most walkable, friendly park and open space area in the city of San Jose. That's my goal, that we all want to spend so much time there, we don't want to go anywhere else. So we will be talking about retail mix and height, density, affordable housing, parking, the other uses for the buildings, the housing itself at other meetings, traffic, that's a big one. We will be discussing that. So look for those meetings to come in the coming months. This is, there's always an opportunity to reach out to our office. Michael Lomeo is the lead staff person for Cambrian Park Plaza, but we have weekly meetings to discuss what's going on and what the community is asking questions about. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Also, we have office hours that I conduct every other week. There's one coming up this Saturday. I've rotated them between Saturday morning and Friday morning. So this one on the 6th is at 9:30, from 9:30 to 10:30. And that's your opportunity to just come in, ask a question, participate in a real casual Zoom type conversation. Everybody gets a chance to raise their hand and speak, and we do our best to answer questions. And if we can't answer them, we'll get back to you at a later date. But that's one way that you can always reach out to us. And we do have a town hall meeting at the end of this month as well, which you should be getting in your newsletter. If you're signed up to get the newsletter, you'll find out everything you need to know about the next town hall. Again, thank you so much for being here and participating in this. I want to thank all of the participants who were here, my staff, the city staff, as well as the representatives from Weingarten. Thank you so much for being here and answering questions. And with that, I'll call it a night and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.